B-roll in Oakwood, and welcome to the Every Bus vlog. Today's route is another of my old local routes. It's been a few years since I've been on board, but it doesn't look like it's changed much. It's the 42, which is one of the routes that runs through Leeds city centre and through highly populated areas on both sides. As such, it's not that scenic. But I wanted to start at the eastern end, partly because it's closest to where I live, but also because there's something quite nice I wanted to show you before we go to the map. This is the Greggs outlet. Unsold food from nearby Greggs stores gets brought here. They also get the food that's baked centrally, but isn't quite up to snuff. Blemished, slightly overdone, offcuts, whatever. If it's fit for human consumption, rather than chuck it, they'll mark the price down and sell it here, and the discounts are considerable. I bought 4 sausage rolls and 2 cookies for £2.50. They also had packs of 4 donuts for £1. They had sandwiches starting at 60p. It's really cheap. Definitely recommend if you're in the area. Anyway, on to the buses. The 42 runs every 15 minutes, which is what passes for a high frequency service now apparently, and it runs in a dumbbell shaped route. We're at the eastern end, so we're going to start where the outward and inward routes split and ride around. First we head one stop east to Holland Park Mount, where the bus has its standing time. Because in the world of public transport, a circle has to have a beginning and an end somewhere, and that somewhere in this case is Holland Park Mount. After a brief stand of just a few minutes, we head down to Fernville and a nice little local centre at Dib Lane. Then on to one of several little supermarkets here in Leeds. It's starting to feel increasingly like the buses just exist to connect up the Lidls these days. We wiggle around Gipton a little bit, narrowly avoiding Hare Hills, before joining a familiar route at Jimmy's. We're on familiar ground here, but not for very long. We turn right and go past another little local centre at Lincoln Green. While I was on the bus filming, I paid it no mind. It just looked like a typical low-rise block of flats with 1 or 2 shops at the bottom. I made a bit of an error there. There's more than 1 or 2. There's like a dozen shops and local services, including, again, an internet cafe. I honestly thought those had died out, but this is the second one I've seen recently. Then we turn onto the main road into Leeds, and almost immediately off it again to serve Byron Street and the Leeds College of Building. We only serve this road westbound because it's one way, though I'm not sure why we don't just follow the main road all the way. There must be a reason, but it's beyond me. On the way back east, we'll serve the main road all the way down, stopping on Eastgate about 200 metres from the bus station. But westbound, the nearest stop's on the head row, about double the distance away. We have a couple more stops on the head row. We stay on the head row pretty much all the way through Leeds. Then we turn off to serve the old Infirmary Street bus point. It used to be the case that we'd serve Park Row and the financial districts on this route, but now the stop's on King Street outside the Bank of England's building. Not especially far from the railway station, but not exactly right outside either. From here, we are straight out to the Armley Gyratory via Wellington Bridge Street. I feel like I've spent a lot of time talking about the Armley Gyratory lately, so let's just ignore it and move on. As we turn onto Oldfield Lane, we go under a railway bridge, and for the first time on this route, we feel like we're out in the suburbs. A little further up, next to this Asda, I want to show you something remarkable. You might think this is just an empty field. There is at least 170 years of history to this field, so strap in. This is TV Harrison Sports Ground. Originally, it was privately owned. There are records dating back to the 1850s of a Wortley Oldfield Lane Cricket Club playing matches here. Wortley Football Club, not in its current form, was formed in the 1870s and played matches here too. Eventually, the ground was bought by public subscription, and it was used for more than a century as the closest thing Wortley has to a community centre. Sports people of all kinds played here for more than 100 years, and the sign happily points out a lot of Leeds United's current and former players did get their starts right here. Then, in the late 20th century and the turn of the millennium, leisure centres were becoming a thing, public use started to decline, until, finally, it was declared abandoned just after the year 2000. Fast forward to 2020, TV Harrison Ground had been abandoned for almost 20 years, and the council decided they wanted to bulldoze it and build houses. Suddenly there was an interest in saving it. You see, an abandoned field is still a field, and it could be, well, unabandoned. But once you build houses, it is never going to be a field again. So the community started campaigning to save it. Sport England got involved and decided that the site was important enough to preserve. That led to years of campaigning and patient negotiation. In 2022, Leeds United Football Club got involved. They wanted to buy it, but I couldn't find out what came of that, if anything. What I could find out is that in the intervening few years, local community groups cleared the field, and today it is used several times a week, just like in the old days. And just this year, in 2025, Leeds City Council's plans to build on the site were formally withdrawn. It seems the Village Green Preservation Society have won. There's not really any point in me going any further west. I've already talked about Old Farnley, which is the western end of the dumbbell, and aside from a Matalan, that's really all there is that way. So I popped into Asda for provisions, waited for the next eastbound service, and hopped on. The trip back east is much the same as the trip west, with the only noteworthy difference being that stop on Eastgate. So, with that, we've reached our last stop for today, ending as we began, outside the Greggs outlet in Oakwood. I'm going to have an almost suspiciously cheap sausage roll for lunch, then head home. Remember to subscribe so you get new episodes in your feed, or better yet, ride on over to the Patreon, where for the price of a day ticket, you can see episodes whenever they happen to be done, and updates on my filming, like, for instance, my recent apology for missing a fortnight because I didn't get paid. But these things happen, so whatever else, please don't forget to thank your driver. Oh, by the way, if you use Leeds Park and Ride, the ticket prices have gone up. Yeah, so there's that.